Welcome to the Deep Dive. We take complex topics, pull them apart, and give you what you need to know.
That's the plan.
Today, we're plunging into information architecture, IA for short,
Right, IA.
our mission, to take a look at A Practical Guide to Information Architecture by Donna Spencer and, well, really figure out what IA is, why it's so important, especially now with information everywhere and, how it actually gets done.
And it's not just websites. That's key.
Exactly. It's organizing anything, really, for other people. Your music library, maybe, or even, like the book says, a supermarket.
Making sense of the mess.
Yeah, bringing some clarity.
And this guide, Spencer's book, it gives a really practical view. It comes straight from her own experience teaching and doing IA for years.
So we're getting the real deal.
We are. We'll cover the core ideas, some maybe surprising challenges, even things like what makes a label stick. Why do some names work and others just don't?
Okay, I'm hooked already. But what really got me right at the start was Spencer's confession. She actually loves organizing things.
Oh, yeah.
Like her yarn collection, her wine rack. And she says that's why she enjoys tackling those really messy websites. It makes it so relatable, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It grounds it. IA isn't some abstract tech thing. It's fundamentally about creating order, whether it's yarn or, a huge corporate intranet.
Okay, so let's unpack that. What is IA at its core? You mentioned the supermarket analogy.
Right. Imagine walking into your regular supermarket after they've renovated. You want chocolate, but nothing's where it used to be.
Total confusion. Frustrating.
That feeling. That's bad IA online. So Spencer boils IA down to three things. One, organizing the stuff, the content, the objects.
Okay.
Two, describing it clearly so you know what it is.
Makes sense.
And three, providing ways for people to actually get to it. Navigation, search, that kind of thing.
And if one of those legs is wobbly.
The whole thing falls down. You need all three.
And you said it's not just digital. Where else does this pop up?
Well, the book makes it clear. Websites, intranets, sure. But also organizing your music, movies, your computer's file system, even old paper files.
Huh. Never thought of my messy desk drawer as an IA problem.
It kind of is.
Yeah.
Spencer uses the word site as shorthand for all these digital systems, but the principles, they apply much wider.
So why is it so critical now?
Information overload, basically. There's just so much stuff out there. Finding what you need is harder than ever.
Right.
Good IA helps you cut through the noise, find your way, and ignore what's irrelevant. It can actually empower people, help them learn, make better decisions.
And good versus bad IA, like the chocolate example.
Exactly. Good IA. Chocolate is with the snacks. Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Bad IA chocolate is grouped by the manufacturer's name.
Oh, nightmare. You'd never find it.
You wouldn't. So good IA is easy to understand. It works for the content. Bad IA is just hard to use. The content doesn't seem to fit anywhere sensible.
But the book also points out it's not always simple. There's rarely one best way.
That's a huge challenge. People think differently. They have different needs, different levels of knowledge. What makes sense to me might not make sense to you.
So the key is
Organizing it so it makes sense to the users, not just to you, the creator.
which brings us to Spencer's three legs of the stool.
Right. People, content, and context. You need to understand all three for good IA.
So if you don't get the people part right,
That whatever structure you create, it just won't click for them. It won't match how they think.
and content, if you don't understand that,
Hard to describe it well, hard to group it logically.
and context, what does that cover?
That's things like the project goals, the technology you have to work with, the company culture, maybe budget constraints. You need to know the whole picture.
It's a balancing act.
Absolutely. You're
Yeah.
constantly balancing the needs of the users, the nature of the content, and the realities of the project context.
Yeah.
Get that balance wrong and, well,
Wobbly stool.
wobbly stool. Exactly.
So how does this work in a real project? What's the life cycle?
Spencer lays out a typical flow. Starts with project definition. What are we actually trying to achieve?
Crucial first step.
Then comes research understanding those people. Content, context. Then design, actually creating the structure. Followed by build and test, and finally maintenance, because it's never really done.
And she compares that upfront work to building a house, right? Digging foundations?
Yeah, exactly. You wouldn't just start throwing up walls without plans and foundations. Skip the IA research and design, and your digital house is likely to collapse later.
So what are the concrete things you actually produce? The deliverables?
Essentially, the blueprints. The overall structure, the main groups and subgroups, the labels for everything, and maybe metadata extra descriptive info.
And navigation comes later.
That's key. Navigation design depends on the IA. You figure out the structure first, then how people will move through it.
Okay, the big question. How long does this IA stuff take?
Huh. The classic consultant answer. It depends.
Of course it does.
It really does, though. Depends on how much you already know about the audience, the content, how much content there is, your own IA experience, how much communication is needed.
And the book says the research and communication take the longest.
Often, yeah. Drafting the actual structure might be relatively quick once you've done the groundwork, but understanding everything and getting everyone on board, that takes time.
What about agile projects? Does IA fit in there?
It does, but the process looks different. Spencer calls it Agile IA. The principles are the same, but the journey changes.
How so?
Less formal documentation, more conversation-centered work. Think sticky notes on a whiteboard during a team stand-up, not a 50-page specification document.
More collaborative.
Exactly. The whole team gets involved in creating the IA, iteratively. It breaks down bottlenecks.
Interesting. So who typically does this work? Is it always an information architect?
Not necessarily. Spencer points out lots of roles are naturals for it. Business analysts, usability specialists, writers, graphic designers, even web developers.
And they each bring different strengths and maybe weaknesses.
For sure. Business analysts, great at detail, analysis, but maybe need to focus more user research on how people use information, not just business rules.
Okay. Graphic designers.
Often handle navigation. But the book warns, design the IA first. Don't just create visual slots for 5 categories if the content needs 7.
Ah, the space for 5 categories trap. I can see that happening. What about writers?
They're often very user-focused, good at organizing content logically. Might need to skill up on navigation patterns, though.
And developers.
Could have great user empathy, but need to treat IA as its own mini-project. Do the research. Don't just jump into coding the front end based on assumptions.
So it's less about the job title, more about the skills.
Absolutely. Key skills are empathy, really understanding users, language skills, finding the right words, synthesis, pulling different information together, attention to detail, and great communication.
Especially listening to feedback, you said.
Crucial. Being willing to change your mind, not just defend your first draft. The best IA people are often the most open to being wrong initially.
And the book has stories about people moving into IA.
Yeah, some great ones. Patrick Kennedy, a developer who saw cracks and pushed for usability in IA. Leslie Dan, a designer more interested in content strategy. Renasa Filippi, a BA who brought design thinking to her work.
So the takeaway is?
IA is multidisciplinary. People come to it from all sorts of backgrounds, bringing unique perspectives.
Okay, let's broaden out again. You mentioned IA isn't just web. Where else?
Spencer covers this. Software applications, think about menu structures, mobile apps, data-heavy applications. How do you group all those fields sensibly? Even things like classification systems, like insurance forms, with dozens of categories.
If it needs organizing for people, IA applies.
Pretty much. Which leads nicely into understanding the context leg of the stool. This, Spencer says, is where the real work begins.
Right, before you even think about structure.
You need to know the project goals, technology constraints or opportunities, any design rules, the company culture, who the key stakeholders are, the whole environment.
Let's zoom in on project goals. Spencer seems pretty firm on this one.
She basically says, if you can't clearly state the reason for doing the work and what success looks like, stop.
Wow. Strong words.
But essential. Goals define the purpose. They guide decisions. They help you evaluate requests later. Your IA has to support those goals. Otherwise, what's the point?
How do you uncover those goals if they're fuzzy?
Spencer suggests a few techniques. Scenario planning. Get stakeholders to tell stories about ideal outcomes. Like, a customer easily finds the product and pays in one step.
Storytelling.
Problem analysis. Dig into why things aren't working now. Why are call center volumes so high? What's the root cause?
Getting to a why.
And backcasting. Start with the ideal future state and work backward. The book mentions Yoink wanting 10,000 items listed as their done point. Gives you concrete steps.
Is there a case study for this?
Yeah, the UX Australia website redesign. They had a clear brief, inform and excite, clear calls to action, showcase content, focus for different readers, build community, thought leadership, really specific.
And that clarity helped.
Hugely. It allowed them to plan a phased rollout and kept everyone aligned. It just makes you wonder how many projects start without that level of clarity. Defining goals is often the first win.
Okay, goals are set. The next critical piece is understanding the people. User research.
Absolutely paramount. You have to avoid assumptions. Research gives you real insights. what people need, what they actually do, or they use the information like on a tiny phone screen in sunlight.
Context matters.
Big time. What do they already know? And crucially, how do they talk about things?
Mm.
Learning user terminology, Spencer says, is one of the most valuable outcomes. It tells you how to label things.
So how do you do user research? What does the book recommend?
First, decide what you need to learn broad patterns or specific tasks. How much research depends on things like existing knowledge, risk, budget. Who to research? Existing users, potential users, staff for intranets, but never just managers.
Got it. And the methods?
Use more than one. Direct methods. Interviews, focus groups, observation, diary studies. Indirect methods. Surveys, analyzing site stats, call center logs. And card sorting is highlighted as really practical for understanding how people group content.
Any examples of research impact?
Spencer mentioned Steve Beatty analyzing hundreds of transactions to set smart default values in a system. It massively sped up data entry for staff. Shows the power of mixing qualitative and quantitative data.
So you've done the research. Now what? Just run with the findings.
No. You must analyze it. Don't just act on the first few things you heard. Look for consistent patterns, recurring issues. Decide what's important to tackle. It's like that detective staring at the clue board, looking for connections.
How do you analyze all that data? Spreadsheets?
That's one way exploring data with tags. Affinity diagramming is another, grouping sticky notes with the team, finding themes collaboratively, using 2x2 matrices, maybe plotting effort versus impact, multi-dimensional analysis through discussion.
The key is the discussion.
Yes, and looking at the data from different angles. Making sure your conclusions are actually backed by what you found, not just gut feel.
And then communicating those findings. Why is that so important?
It verifies what you learned and makes it real for the whole team. It stops people falling back on assumptions. It gets everyone focused on actual user needs and behaviors. Spencer says even your research documentation should be user-centered. Tailor it to who needs to read it.
How do you make research insights accessible? Personas.
Personas are great. Rich descriptions of typical users, focused on their goals, like Jennifer the sales rep needing efficient routes, not just demographics.
And scenarios.
Short stories showing how someone like Jennifer would actually use the product, what steps they take, makes it concrete.
Experience maps, too.
Yeah, visualizing the whole customer journey over time, all the touch points. These tools bring the user research to life, making it actionable for design.
Okay, we understand the people. Now let's talk understanding content, what's already there.
Right. For any redesign, you have to know what you're starting with. You need a content inventory.
What kinds are there?
A full inventory lists absolutely everything. Very thorough,
Right.
but can be massive work. A partial inventory just samples content, maybe if you're rewriting most of it anyway. A content audit collects less detail, often used for product site sampling page types.
Any tips for doing this?
Automate, where you can, tools like ZenuLink Sleuth can crawl a site, but always manually check and verify the details. Automation isn't perfect.
And beyond existing content, you need to think about content
Well,
you need. Right.
Definitely. Where do ideas come from? Current user behavior, web stats, search logs, competitor analysis, more user research, team brainstorming, lots of sources.
This leads to content planning. What does that involve?
Several things. Detailed definition is one. Vague ideas break IA. What format is it? Video, text, diagram. How long? Who's it for? What task does it support? Need specifics. Checking accuracy and changes over time. Is current stuff correct? Will it change soon? That affects the structure. And understanding structured versus unstructured content. This is fascinating.
Explain that difference. Why is it crucial?
Structured content has predictable bits like pieces of data, event titles, speaker name, date. Great for automation, reuse, different displays. Think Lego bricks. Unstructured content is more fluid, like paragraphs of text in an About Us page, more like Play-Doh. Knowing the difference shapes your IA possibilities.
And prioritizing. You can't do everything at once.
Nope. So you need ways to set priorities. Maybe based on seasonal needs, like the UX Australia conference plan, or a value versus cost matrix, or scoring systems. Decide what delivers the most value soonest.
I remember that future content audit idea from Murray Thompson.
Ah, yes. Brainstorming user needs and content ideas without looking at the current site first. A clean slate approach. Helps break out of old thinking, see new possibilities, understand knock-on effects.
Okay, we know the content. Now, how do we organize it? Classification schemes.
Right, the ways you can group things. Spencer splits them into two main types, exact schemes and ambiguous schemes.
Exact seems straightforward.
It is. Clear rules, easy assignment. Organizing by time, like news. Alphabetical, like AZ index is great for known items, but use user terms. Geographical, fine if people understand the geography, but beware weird boundaries like water catchments.
In ambiguous schemes.
These need judgment. Boundaries are fuzzy, designed from scratch. Like organizing by subject topic. What's it about? Very common, often good. By audience. Who's it for? Tricky if audiences overlap, like university sites. By task, what people do. Works for focused apps like PayPal. Harder if tasks are broad or overlap.
What about organizing by format, like video, articles?
Spencer has reservations. People usually think what's before how. Format might be better as a filter than a primary structure.
And organizing by the company's organizational structure, like department names.
Usually bad for users, easy for authors maybe. But users often don't know internal structures, unless it's a very rigid, well-understood hierarchy, like maybe the military. Ruth Ellison's anecdote about financial intranets with changing team names shows the chaos this can cause.
So subject topic often wins out.
For content-heavy sites, yes. It usually matches how users think, like Choice Magazine organizing by product category.
But you can combine these.
Oh, absolutely. Combination schemes are very common. There's no single right answer, just what works best for your users and your content in your context.
Those case studies you mentioned, SciTech and Science Network WA changing their schemes.
Perfect examples. SciTech went from audience to subject because users didn't follow fixed paths and content overlapped anyway. Science Network WA went from geography to subject because local, national, international was meaningless to users for their content.
Yeah.
It shows these choices have real consequences for usability.
Okay, we've done the research, understood context, people, content. Now we actually create the IAA.
Spencer says. It's not linear. Decide what you need to create the structure, the groups, then just do it. Draft something based on what you know. Don't aim for perfection first time.
That sounds less intimidating.
It is. It's iterative. Draft, check it against your research, revise. When does it stop? When it feels good, feels simple and right, then discuss it with stakeholders.
And be ready to listen.
Absolutely. Listen to objections. Spencer admits getting it wrong herself by misunderstanding legislation. You have to be humble, build shared understanding. It's not about defending your ego.
Tips for drafting. How many main groups or categories should there be?
The magic number question. It's a balance. Fewer groups scan faster but might be too abstract. More groups can be clearer but slow down scanning. Unsure. Test 2 versions.
And Dan Willis's provocative quote.
The perfect number for items in navbar is 0.
His point.
Make it easy to ignore what's irrelevant, not just find what is relevant.
Yeah.
Good IA helps people filter efficiently.
How about the mechanics, pen and paper?
Definitely don't start on the computer. Spencer recommends sticky notes, whiteboards. Physical interaction often sparks more creativity. Get your hands dirty.
And documenting rationale.
Crucial. Note down ideas you discarded and why. It helps you explain your choices later and stops bad ideas reappearing. Defend the decisions, not just the diagram.
Okay, draft IA exists. Now we test it.
You must. Test the assumption that it actually works for users. This is usability testing, focused specifically on the structure and labels.
Not testing the whole website yet.
No, just the IA itself. Does the organization make sense? Can people find things based on the labels?
When do you test?
As soon as you have a draft. It can be quick, informal, maybe just an afternoon.
How? Tree testing.
That's the main method. You give users tasks, scenarios, and see if they can navigate your proposed structure, the tree, to find the right information. You can use index cards or online tools like TreeJack.
Scenarios need careful wording, right?
Yes. Use user language. Describe a goal. Don't use the IA labels themselves or just because of treasure hunt, testing their vocabulary, not the structure's intuitiveness.
Any lo-fi testing examples?
Brian Hoffman used nested folders in Windows Explorer to simulate and test a hierarchy. Simple, effective. Melinda Anderson talked about moving from physical cards to online tools. Methods evolve.
Tested, revised. Now communicating the IA. Spencer's advice here was surprising.
Yeah, hold off showing IA diagrams to clients until after navigation and page layouts are designed.
Why is that?
IA alone can be too abstract. Seeing it visualized with navigation makes it concrete, easier to grasp. Otherwise, people struggle to picture how it translates to a real screen.
How do you document it then? Sitemaps.
Exactly. Sitemaps show the structure. Can be high-level conceptual ones or detailed ones, maybe in spreadsheets.
And the rationale document.
Absolutely essential. Explains the why behind choices, including discarded options. Protects the work. Steve Beatty's advice, keep it concise, match the client's style.
Okay, finally, designing navigation. And the big shocker, don't start with the home page.
Counterintuitive, I know, but it makes so much sense when you think about it.
Why not start there? Isn't it the front door?
Sometimes. But people often land deep within a site from search engines. Spencer says start with the content page first. Design navigation that helps users achieve goals right there on the page where they're reading or doing something.
Ah, okay. Design for where people spend their time.
Exactly. Then design the index pages that lead to that content, like category pages. Finally, design the home page last. Pull it all together there.
So you avoid designing navigation that only works if you start at the top.
Precisely. It ensures navigation works from anywhere. It's designing from the inside out, not just the front door inwards.
What are the building blocks of navigation, core elements?
Your main nav bars, horizontal, vertical, tabs, drop-down or fly-out menus are useful because they let users peek at the next level without clicking away.
And navigation extras.
Things that supplement the core nav. Breadcrumbs showing you are here. Tag clouds, AZ indexes, filters, and faceted browse, that step-by-step narrowing, like on shopping sites or recipe sites like Epicurious, incredibly powerful for complex content.
And the final step in design.
Testing navigation. Proper usability testing now, with clickable prototypes or pages, real content. See if people can actually use the whole thing to complete tasks. Spencer really recommends getting expert help here, or using resources like Steve Krug's Rocket Surgery Made Easy. Find the problems before you launch.
Wow, that's quite a journey. So pulling this all together for you, the listener, what does it all mean?
It means IA is this fascinating mix. It's about deep empathy for people, rigorous organization of content, and smart awareness of the project context.
It's iterative, it can be messy, but it's deeply human-centered, building pathways through information.
And remember, IA work is never truly over. Information changes, user needs evolve. But doing this work properly gives you that solid foundation, the essential blueprints for success.
And that final thought from Spencer to leave you with. Trust your instincts, but test assumptions. Don't fuss, just try it.
Yeah, I love that. It's about blending that careful thought and research with the courage to just try things, experiment, and iterate based on feedback.
So think about how these ideas apply to your own world. Anytime you organize something so someone else can find it or understand it.
You're doing IA, whether you call it that or not.